Vultures are vital to the ecosystem since they feast on dead animals and dispose of them properly. Without these birds, our planet would be much smellier and risk contracting diseases from rotting flesh. And while some vultures are endangered, it's not for lack of trying. Let's look at some of the most endangered vultures and what is being done to protect them. 10 of the world's most endangered vultures. Species number 10, Andean condor. The Andean condor, Vultur gryphus, is the largest of the New World vultures and is the national symbol of several South American countries, including Chile, Ecuador, Bolivia, and Mexico. This huge bird is considered to be vulnerable to extinction due to habitat loss and secondary poisoning from animal carcasses killed by hunters. The Andean condor is a long-lived bird, living up to 50 years in the wild and even longer in captivity. The female reaches sexual maturity when she is 6 years old and lays an egg every 2 to 3 years. That's not exactly prolific. Paired with the fact that it lives so long, it's especially vulnerable to losses from human activity or persecution. The good news is captive breeding and reintroduction programs have helped to stabilize populations in Argentina, Venezuela, and Colombia. It was also the test pilot of sorts for conservation efforts surrounding the critically endangered California condor. The Andean condor serves as a model for reintroduction efforts since it occupies a similar niche in its ecosystem and faces many of the same threats. 9. Hooded vulture. The hooded vulture, Necrocerts monachus, found in sub-Saharan Africa, is especially small. Its size allows it to rise up on thermals faster and be the first to spot a carcass. It also puts it last in line when larger vultures arrive at a food source first. They will catch insects and forage at dumps near human habitation, too. Despite its resourcefulness, the now critically endangered species is declining rapidly due to non-targeted poisoning and being captured for traditional medicine and bushmeat. According to the National Center for Biotechnology Information, 90% of vulture poisonings are non-targeted. In other words, the vultures aren't the intended victim. Scientists say Africa's dwindling vulture population could cost the continent dearly in waste and carcass removal. This is significant because improper disposal of animal carcasses can cause disease outbreaks in both humans and livestock. Number 8. Himalayan griffon. The Himalayan griffon, Gyps himalayensis, is found high in the Himalayas, the Pamirs, Kazakhstan, and on the Tibetan Plateau. While it's not facing the same imminent threat as some of its relatives, it is still considered near-threatened due to susceptibility to toxicity induced by diclofenac. Diclofenac is a drug used to treat inflammation in cows and other livestock. When the animals die and are eaten by the vultures, the drug accumulates in their bodies. It is estimated that 93% of griffon vultures exposed to the drug died within 15 days of eating contaminated meat. Even so, its numbers appear to be holding steady. Between 66,000 and 334,000 mature individuals remain in the wild. Populations have declined by 95% across Asia's gyps vultures. That's bad news for mammals who rely on vultures to clean up dead animals. Their stomachs can handle diseases like anthrax, cholera, and botulism, which their mammalian scavengers can't. Number 7. Bearded vulture. The bearded vulture, Gypaetus barbatus, is one of the few vultures with plumage on its face, hence its common name. Categorized as an Old World vulture, it will sometimes kill live tortoises, hares, marmots, and rock hyraces. Instead of feasting on their meat, it eats their bone marrow, which comprises up to 90% of its diet. In 2014, the species was reassessed from least concern to near threatened. Habitat loss, degradation, and human-raptor conflict has threatened populations in its home continents of Europe, Asia, and Africa. There are thought to be between 1,300 and 6,700 left. The bearded vulture is also known as ossifrage, since it sometimes drops stones while soaring, causing eggs or bones to crack and release the nutritious contents inside. That's right, it's one of the few birds capable of killing tortoises and breaking their shells. No. 6. Lappet-faced vulture. The endangered lappet-faced vulture, Torgos tracholaetus, has a patchy distribution throughout Africa. It's a big, strong bird that can tear through tough hides better than others, meaning it often eats before other vultures even get a chance. But despite the advantage, populations are declining due to habitat loss, fewer natural prey, and ingesting poison intended for jackals and other local pests, all direct results of the increase in cattle ranching. Sometimes they are targeted by cattle herders and poachers, as vultures can sometimes expose their illegal kill sites. There are now fewer than 6,000 lappet-faced vultures left in the world. The species is threatened in several African countries and has disappeared from 8 of them. The biggest threats to this vulture are habitat destruction, lead poisoning, electrocution, and collision with vehicles. The Department of Environmental Affairs says it is one of South Africa's flagship species and is featured on the logo of the Vulture Conservation Program. Number 5. Cape vulture. The Cape vulture, Gypscoprothers, found in southern Africa, tends to nest and roost in colonies and forage with others. One of the main reasons the Cape vulture is endangered is the lack of large carnivores, no doubt due to increased farming. Large carnivores help to break up bones and tough hides so that vultures can actually eat them. The IUCN estimates that there are about 9,400 left in the world. Conservation efforts include spreading awareness and setting up feeding areas so the vultures can get the nutrition they need. No. 4. Egyptian vulture. The Egyptian vulture, Neophron percnopterus, stands out for its unique appearance. It has a bald face and long feathers covering its neck, creating a spiky crest. Despite its large range, which extends from southwestern Europe to India, it is now endangered after having lost half or more of its population in the past 3 generations. The birds migrate thousands of miles south to Africa for winter, often experiencing food shortages due to changes in territory. Additionally, they are threatened by the deterioration and loss of habitat, wind farms, agricultural chemicals, and feral dogs. Feral dogs compete with the Egyptian vulture for food and directly kill chicks and eggs. And while hunting is illegal, they are occasionally shot by farmers protecting their livestock. No. 3. Indian vulture. The Indian vulture, Gyps indicus, feeds on carrion around dumps and slaughterhouses in residential areas. As a result, it's been hit hard by the veterinary drug diclofenac. The Indian vulture population probably began to decline in the 1990s and were extremely rapid, according to the International Union for Conservation of Nature. Diclofenac probably caused the deaths of more than half of the Indian vultures in the wild. In India alone, India's vulture population declined by 99% in 10 years. The population decrease is expected to result in a corresponding increase in rabies in both wild animals and domestic dogs and a resulting public health hazard. According to National Geographic, India's roughly 30,000 remaining vultures are confined to just a handful of sanctuaries. Captive breeding programs now aim to slow their decline, but because the birds don't reach maturity until 5 years old, it may take decades to see improvement. Number 2. White-backed vulture. The white-backed vulture, Gyps africanus, likes lowland, wooded savannas and can be found nesting in tall trees from South Africa to the Sahara. It's the most common vulture in Africa and one of the most widespread, but is also critically endangered, feared to go locally extinct by 2034. The white-backed vulture nests in tall trees or on cliffs in small colonies and feeds mainly on the carcasses of antelopes, zebra, wildebeest, and gemsbok. In addition to poisoning and the decline of ungulate species in its habitat, the white-backed vulture is also targeted for trade. Though it does live in protected areas, the fact that it travels so far for food means that individuals spend ample time unprotected, thus making them even more vulnerable. Number 1. Ruppel's vulture. Ruppel's vulture, Gyps ruppelli, is one of the highest flying birds, suddenly having collided with a commercial airplane at 37,000 feet in 1973. Normally, they hang out at around 20,000 feet and use their keen eyesight to spot meals. Like other vultures, Ruppel's vultures are scavengers, traveling vast distances for food. Ruppel's vulture was bumped from endangered to critically endangered in 2015. There are now thought to be 20 to 1,000 birds left in the world. Population declines have been attributed to habitat loss related to human-related land use, poisoning and loss of nesting sites and food sources. They are also sometimes used for medicine and meat. What's being done? Governments and environmental organizations are working together to combat poaching and trafficking. They're also targeting lead poisoning, which kills 40% of vultures each year, and education is key to saving vultures. The sooner we understand why they are important to the ecosystem and how to avoid killing them ourselves, the better chance we have of seeing their numbers grow. If you enjoyed this video, please leave us a comment and like the video.